Hey bookies, welcome to the Great Gatsby journey. Stay tuned and let's dive into the story. The Great Gatsby is a novel set in the 1920s during a time of great change in America. The story is told by Nick Carraway, a young man from the Midwest who moves to Long Island, New York, in search of success and excitement. Nick rents a small house next to the mansion of a mysterious man named Jay Gatsby. Through Nick, we learn about Gatsby's past, his dreams, and his love for a woman named Daisy Buchanan. Nick's cousin, Daisy, lives across the bay with her husband, Tom Buchanan, a wealthy but arrogant man. Despite being married to Tom, Daisy had once been in love with Gatsby. However, Gatsby and Daisy were separated when Gatsby went to fight in World War I after the war. Gatsby became very wealthy, buying a grand mansion in West Egg, hoping that Daisy would return to him. Gatsby throws extravagant parties every weekend in the hopes that Daisy will attend one of them. The people who come to his parties are mostly strangers, people who are only interested in his wealth and the excitement of the social scene. Nick, however, is invited to one of Gatsby's parties and is struck by how lonely and out of place Gatsby seems, despite the crowds of guests. Nick is also invited to dinner at the Buchanan's house. Tom is a man who is deeply dissatisfied with his life, but instead of dealing with his feelings, he acts out by having an affair with another woman, Myrtle Wilson. Myrtle is married to George Wilson, a mechanic who owns a garage. George is a poor, humble man who knows nothing about his wife's affair. As Nick gets to know Gatsby better, he learns that Gatsby is deeply in love with Daisy and wants to reunite with her, even though she is married to Tom. Gatsby asks Nick to help arrange a meeting with Daisy, and Nick agrees. Two lovers are reunited in Nick's home, and their passion is reignited. However, Daisy is now torn between her old love for Gatsby and her loyalty to Tom, who, despite his flaws, is still her husband. As the story unfolds, it becomes clear that Tom is aware of Daisy's feelings for Gatsby. Instead of confronting her directly, Tom begins to challenge Gatsby. He points out that Gatsby is not truly part of the wealthy class, but instead built his wealth through questionable means. This causes Daisy to have doubts about Gatsby and his intentions. Even though she loves Gatsby, she ultimately chooses to stay with Tom. The tension between Gatsby and Tom reaches its peak when Tom and Daisy's car hits Myrtle while she is crossing the road. Myrtle is killed instantly, and Gatsby takes the blame for the accident, hoping that Daisy will leave Tom and be with him. However, Daisy and Tom both decide to leave town, avoiding the consequences of their actions. They leave no forwarding address, leaving Gatsby behind. In the end, Gatsby's dream of being with Daisy is shattered. He is left alone in his mansion, waiting for Daisy to come to him. One day, George Wilson, Myrtle's husband, comes to Gatsby's house, convinced that Gatsby was the one who killed his wife. George shoots Gatsby and then himself. Gatsby's death is tragic, and the people who attended his parties and admired his wealth never truly cared for him. Nick is devastated by Gatsby's death and the emptiness of the world he has come to know. He reflects on the past and realizes that the American dream, symbolized by Gatsby's ambition and desire for a better life, was ultimately an illusion. Gatsby had built his life around the idea of a perfect future with Daisy, but in the end, he was left with nothing. Nick returns to the Midwest, disillusioned with the people he met in New York, particularly Tom and Daisy. Tom, who was responsible for much of the pain in the story, seems unaffected by the consequences of his actions. Daisy, too, has moved on with her life, leaving Gatsby's dreams behind. The novel ends with Nick reflecting on the idea of the American dream and how, in the end, it is always just out of reach, no matter how hard one tries to achieve it. Through The Great Gatsby, Fitzgerald paints a picture of the excess, superficiality, and moral decay of the 1920s. Gatsby's tragic end serves as a reminder of the dangers of living in a dream, disconnected from reality. The novel is often considered a critique of the American dream and its promises, showing that the pursuit of wealth and status can never truly lead to happiness.